All right. Welcome back to another One of None podcast, a long awaited podcast as it's been over or about a month since our last one, which we'll explain that. But just to reiterate, I'm your host, Dr. Jonah Casella.
And I'm your other host, Dr. Andrew and Jonah.
It's been a little while.
Yeah, it has been a little
Yeah.
rusty. We're knocking off the
Yeah.
dust.
We took a break over the holidays and then we were going to record last week, but I totally messed up my schedule and I was back home hunting and with my dad, and my dad and I went out to dinner at the time that we were supposed to record the podcast, and I was like, I'm so sorry. Like I
Nice.
totally forgot.
It
But
happens. It happens.
yeah,
But
we got a
we're
cool
definitely
one
happy.
today. What'd you say?
I said we're definitely happy to be back. I think we've been itching. You and I have both been itching to get back into this. So
Yeah, for sure. And we got a cool topic today. Um, one that a lot of people that, even if you're not like an endurance athlete or something like that, but in other aspects of your life, you can probably relate to this in some way. But especially if you're some kind of athlete, whether you're even just a lifter or you're an endurance athlete or whatever, you can relate to this. We're going to talk about dabbling into the pain cave in your workouts and what that means, and honestly, how important it is to do so. And I texted Andrew about this last week because I had this like image when I was running that I'll explain in a little bit, but it's this image of the pain cave calling my name because it's been so long. I feel like since I've dabbled into it, since I've walked into it. But you got anything to add before we or to get started with?
yeah, I think I heard about the term pain cave probably back when I was in PT school, but I had never heard of it before then. And it was a buddy of mine, Matt. Shout out Matt. And he said it kind of in a joking way, like, let's go spend some time in the pain cave. And then like after that, I really like started to use it. And the more I used it, the more I realized its terminology and the reason why people say that. And it's like a play on words, but it really is, it has a lot of deeper meaning to it if you spend a lot of time in that pain cave intentionally. And I think it's a great place to be in. But half the battle is forcing yourself to go in there in the first place and spend the time really just hanging out in there. And the more time you get in there, the better it's going to be for you. Not to say that it's more enjoyable, but it's better that you spend time there. So we'll dive into a lot of that. But go ahead, Joan. You can kind of tap into
Yeah,
to
so let's
where
just
what you were referring to.
yeah, let's just define what pain cave means. All right. I mean, it's obviously in the name, but obviously this is not a physical place. This is within your own mind, and this is a place deep in your mind, in the dark space of your mind, that you can really only tap into when you're doing something that's very difficult. We're gonna relate it to, like, even you related it to PT school, which you can definitely consider that with like studying and stuff, or any kind of work too. But we're gonna relate it to like our workouts. Andrew is training for the Donna half marathons coming up in less than a month in Florida in Jax. I'm started my training, my 6 month build up for my first half Ironman. It's coming up this summer, so we've been grinding pretty hard. So the pain cave is that deep, dark part of your mind that you only tap into when you're deep into a workout, when it's really starting to suck, and you start getting those negative thoughts about why you're doing this, and I want to be comfortable. Why, and just you have to understand that taking a step into the pain cave is very important for your growth, and you learn a lot about yourself and who you are as a person when you're in the pain cave. So, to start it off, I had this image when I was running on the treadmill last week when I was home. It was a really short workout. It was only 4 miles, and I was doing it like an 8 minute pace. So it wasn't anything crazy, but I got like a couple miles in, and it's just that mental thing of like, even though it's only 4 miles, and but you're halfway through it, and you're thinking, oh, I still have 2 more miles to go, and your just mind starts playing tricks on you. I just like tried to like mellow out, and I do this when I run and work out. I just try to like go numb almost, and like mentally just like go into the zone and get tunnel vision, and just try and shut my mind off to stop all the negative thoughts. And for me, this is like really when I tap into my pain cave. Like when I get into that deep dark spot and I know that this sucks and it's going to suck and it's not going to get better, it's only going to get worse. But like I know how important that is because I know that this is where all the growth starts from and how you develop all that growth. It's not the easy first couple of miles. It's not the easy first hour of your bike ride or whatever. It's the nitty gritty stuff that comes down the line towards the end when, you got a long ways to go and you're already hurting and you step into this pain cave. So I had this image in my mind of, this past like month, December, and even part of November, like had a lot of other stuff going on, made excuses and hadn't been really pushing physically as much as I was before. And so I had this image that the pain cave, just this dark cave with this dark figure in the opening of this cave, just beckoning me towards it, and just picturing myself with my head down, walking into the pain cave, knowing that I'm overdue on my payments and it's time.
Oh yeah,
It's time to pay some debts.
yeah. He's just starting to sound like Goggins, dude. The way that he talks, he's talking about paying off the debt, pay your dues, all that stuff. I think that's a good analogy, and I think I like what you're talking about, and I think a good point to think about too is building your capacity is another way to think about why would you forcefully spend time in the pain cave? Like, what's the point of that? And physical endurance is one of those reasons. Jonah and I have been getting into more of the endurance side of things. Our background is mostly strength, so I can speak personally that a lot of the pain cave that I'm experiencing is involuntary because I have to do it, and I hate spending time. I honestly don't like running that much. Like I don't enjoy it. I love going to the gym. You can put me in the pain cave in the gym all you want, but like I love going to the gym and doing that type of pain cave. So it's not really painful for me. The stuff that sucks is running. Like running and forcefully putting yourself in like an aerobic state or anaerobic state, sorry, either or really, and just going out and doing it. And that's the tough part because that's the harder stuff. You're short of breath for like maybe 30 seconds after you do a set, right? And then you can take time in between your sets and rest, and it's a different type of pain when you're kind of tapping into this, and that's why endurance is so difficult. The sport of endurance in general is a lot more difficult, if you will, because it takes a lot of effort and time spent in the so-called pain cave to build your capacity for that. And so what I also have learned from the pain cave is what used to be difficult for me is now a lot easier. So when I first started running and I was 200 plus pounds, I mean, let's say 205, a 8:45 pace was like pretty hard for me. And now, and Jonah can speak from experience on this too, but an 8:45 pace is like our slowest. That's like our slow run. And we feel like we're not even getting anything out of it at 8:45. But that was just time spent in that cave, hanging out, making the suck really suck for long periods of time. And then now that seems like clockwork for us. Like it's not difficult for us to be able to run at that pace now. And so I was listening to the Huberman Lab on one of my runs, and Andrew Huberman talks about kind of something that's relatable to this, and he calls it. There's an area in our brain. There's two of them in every brain for the left and right side, called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. And he was talking about this on Goggins' podcast, and he was talking about how Goggins' anterior mid-cingulate cortex was probably extremely large because it's built, and they found that in studies that the area is much larger in people who are forcefully doing things that they don't want to do. And they find though that area is also much more active in both resting and stimulated states in people who are higher achievers. So people who are very intellectual, who are scoring very high on IQ score or on IQ tests, things like that. People who are forcefully putting themselves in environments that they don't want to be in tend to have both resting and active higher states, or activity, I guess, in the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. And for anyone listening out there, that was a just generalization of the podcast. Obviously, there's a lot more intricacies with the podcast, but that was basically a summary of that. And it's interesting because people nowadays hate doing that. They hate spending time doing things they don't like to do. But there's so much that comes from doing the things you don't want to do. And our generation, I mean, yes, Jonah, we're part of it. Thankfully, I don't think we haven't succumbed to it, but our generation sucks in that. I mean, we're soft as a generation. We don't like to spend time doing the things we don't like because we're so driven by satisfaction that's immediate. We hate the long-term suffering. Anything even short-term sucks. So we don't want to spend any time doing that. And I can probably imagine that our generation probably has the smallest anterior mid-cingulate cortex out of probably a lot of generations that preceded us because we hate those things. So, I think there's a lot of power in people like David Goggins. You can call him what you want. You can call him crazy, psychotic for what he's doing, but that guy spends a lot of time doing things he doesn't like to do. And there's something kind of noble about that because nobody wants to do that and nobody's like him like that. So,
Yeah.
as much as people love or hate him, you can give the guy credit because he does things that people don't want to do.
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Huberman's awesome. His podcasts they make me feel
So
so
cool.
stupid, but they're really cool. um, yeah. No, I mean, and there's, like you said, there's just so much growth that happens from from doing things you don't want to do. Like you build so much character and resilience and and just endurance. It's very important. It's something that a lot of people lack in this day and age when everything is right at your fingertips and made accessible, and you don't really have to work for much anymore or try that hard anyway. But yeah, and like the other way I like to think about it is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Getting, like that's really important. Get out of your comfort zone. You're not gonna get anything new out of your life or gain anything or grow by being in the same comfort zone, by staying in your little bubble, in your box. The only way that you're gonna grow and develop and get better in life and just in general is by stepping out of your comfort zone and doing things that are uncomfortable. And for us, especially in the fitness world, that means stepping into the pain cave. You're not gonna, like Andrew said, you're not gonna gain anything. Well, for us, by running, we're not gonna gain as much by running at a 9-minute pace, because that's easier for us. Like your muscles can adapt, they get used to that, and they can work much more efficiently. And you're not going to get faster and get better by doing that. You have to step out of the comfort zone, increase your pace, do threshold workouts, get into that pain cave where you're just in the suck, enduring it, but understanding that it's for, that short amount of suffering is for a greater purpose, and you just have to endure in that moment. And that goes to, that spreads into so many things too in your everyday life, not just with sports. I mean, you can relate that to anything. Not even just with school. Like obviously, like if you're going into like a higher degree or something, you're spending years in school. That's years of suffering. But in the grand scheme of things, like you suffered for a short amount of time to have the career you want for the rest of your life. It's an investment, and that's how you're gonna kind of get ahead. But even like people that are like going into a trade or something like that, putting in that time, that work up front when it's uncomfortable, when you don't want to do it, when it's a little bit more difficult, because at the end of the day, it's going to pay dividends in the end. So that's like why I use that analogy. Like I had some debts to pay because I've been taking it real easy lately, and up until the last couple weeks. And so now that I'm back into the grind and back into the pain cave, I'm starting to pay off some of those debts, and it feels good. Like I forgot how good it felt. I was dreading so much, like having to to do that, and knowing that it was going to be uncomfortable, since like prepping for the marathon and remembering that experience and everything, I let my mind cloud and forget. Like my mind got in the way of remembering how good it felt afterwards. It's like that momentary like suffering and being in the pain cave for half an hour, then like the rest of the day, or you feel so good and you reflect on that. Like that bleeds into so many more days and so many more workouts. And that helps you like get into like a rhythm with your habit and routine too. Like tomorrow I have a swim, like a long swim after work with some drills and stuff like that. And it's like it's gonna suck, and I'm gonna feel like I'm drowning like I always do when I swim, but then and get into that pain cave. But afterwards I'm gonna feel really good when I come home after a long day of work and after that grind, and feel good about it. So there has to be so much dopamine release that happens from that after you endure that sort of suffering.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's interesting you say that, because I honestly kind of just forgot about the lasting effects of it. Like in terms of your day to day stuff. Like I can get over it. I can force myself to do it if I have a bigger why. Okay, like okay, I need to go do this run because I know it's going to pay off well in the long run whenever the Donna comes around the corner. But like the immediate effects of it is like you feel productive. You feel like you've crushed your day already. Or if you're running at the end of the day, you feel like you hit your workout in. You know that you spent some time there and you made the most of it too. And even chasing the pain cave can be equated to intensity too, which is nice because there's nothing worse than like cutting out an hour of your time, going to the gym, and then you half ass it, excuse my language, but you feel like you didn't really get much out of it. Like you did 4 exercises for chest, you did 4 exercises for extensions, and you feel like you barely even got a pump in. But if you intentionally try and force yourself to go into the pain cave with that mentality, your intensity is probably there, right? So like there's some truth about your work ethic for that workout. So there's something to be proud of with that. Even if you're just chasing the idea of the pain cave and you spend time in there, then your intensity has to be there somewhat. And for some days it's more than others. But another thing that I was thinking of when you said that, Jonah, was sometimes you don't understand the lasting effects of the pain cave because like you're not consciously thinking about it. So let's say for example, um, you spend a lot of time. Let's talk about it. Wednesday is a speed work day for me. So I'll go to the track and do like really fast paced running. And so, I go through that. That sucks. It's like an hour long. And then I go and do that 3 weeks in a row. And then I start to do my typical like 9 mile run on a Monday. And I'm like, my heart rate is like significantly lower than what it used to be. But I don't really like, I'm like, oh, it was a decent run. Maybe it's the weather out, or, maybe it was just I got a lot of sleep last night. This is just the effects of the spending time in that pain cave. You might not realize them immediately, but over time they're happening, and then you come to the realization later on and think to yourself like, holy crap, maybe this is like a compounding effect from what I'm doing. And it's not like it's just going to waste, right? Because like you are deliberately doing things that you don't like to do, and that could go for anything, like your patience level, for example. Maybe you practice spending the time in the pain cave by forcing yourself to just not complain about something and build up your patience for something. You say I'm not going to complain about anything. I'm going to be as patient as I possibly can with this person, and you do that every single day for a week, and then or 2 weeks or whatever you're setting out to do, and then 2 months down the line, what used to really frustrate you and because you had limited patience is now not even something that you think about anymore. You can relate it to anything really. And I think that's like awesome by forcefully doing something you don't want to do. That's just habit building pretty much. And we kind of fancy it up by saying pain cave, but like that's really it, you know? It's like you're forcefully doing something that you don't like to do and it compounds over time and you get the reward from doing that thing that's painful. And whether that's physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, whatever it is, you're reaping the reward of doing that compounding effort over time. And the
Yeah.
last thing I want to talk about as it relates to what we were just saying, sorry, Joan, um, was that I was doing a run on Saturday, and it was honestly one of my best runs I've ever had. Distance wise, it was, intensity wise, was not incredibly difficult, which was very surprising to me because I ran that, I ran 15 miles on Saturday morning at like 5 in the morning with some friends. And I surprisingly, it wasn't extremely challenging for me, believe it or not, because that was 5 miles more than I'd ever run really before, and I did it at a pace that was relatively fast for me in comparison to where I used to be. But as I was out there, it was pouring down rain. I mean, we were getting from this 5 minutes into the run, I was completely soaked. Actually, I think I was wearing this shirt. It was completely dark. My shoes were like just every single step I was squeezing water out of my shoes. My feet were soggy. Like it was just everything the entire time. But there was nothing more gratifying than knowing that you were out there doing something deliberately difficult with people that you love to do that with, that were just like smiling through it all too. Because it brings you perspective. Where if I was out there by myself, I would have been like, this is so annoying. Like, why am I doing this right now? Everyone else is at home sleeping. Everyone's lights are off. They're not going to turn on for another 2 hours because it's 5 in the morning. And I was just like, it was such a rewarding thing too. So although the pain cave can be very, daunting and frustrating to spend time in that place, there's actually times where you are in that suck and you're like, I love this right now, you know? And I know you've been there, Jonah. I know you've been there for sure. I mean, there's a lot of fun that can come out of it too. It doesn't always have to suck. I mean, it's gonna suck, but you can do that with a smile on your face, you know?
Yeah. 100%. I actually think about that too. Like, I think about when I do get into the pain cave and I'm getting towards, like, I'm deep in the pain cave, but I'm getting towards the end of a run. Like, I was talking about yesterday, I ran 7 miles at like a 7:45 pace, and it was like on the treadmill, which is super boring. And I was just grinding away. When I got like 4 miles in, I was like, man, I still got 3 miles left. And at this point, like mentally, I was like, this sucks. Like, I'm just halfway. And then that's like when I stepped into the pain cave and was like, all right, I just gotta bury myself into this and like keep pushing. It's gonna suck. Like, I know it's gonna suck. I just have to like keep going. And then once I got another mile down, I was like, okay, like I suck. I know this sucks, excuse me, but I'm enduring it. And I just got another mile in, and I feel good. Like, now I'm happy. I got a mile into this suck. And I got 2 miles in, and then at that point when I had like a mile and a half left, I was like, this shit is fucking mine. Like, this, excuse me. I'm like, this is mine. Like, and I think my last 2 miles, my pace was better than any of the miles before, because I was just like nobody's in my mind. I'm like, nobody's suffering as good as I can suffer right now. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds so stupid, but when you're in that moment and you're telling yourself that, like, you get so hype, and you can just push through, and it feels so good. Like you said, like, nobody's out here in the rain running right now. I'm like, nobody's pushing it like I'm pushing it right now. I don't care if nobody has any idea what I'm doing right now. That doesn't even matter. It's about like how I feel in this moment, and I'm just like, I'm enduring, and I'm loving it. And I like it. And because when I'm running, like when you're running and doing the physical stuff like that, you have to like kind of distract yourself. And so in my mind, I'm kind of like stacking bricks inside this pain cave. I'm dressing this cave up. Like, I'm making this cave my home. I'm getting nice and comfortable in here because I know I'm going to be in here for a while. And over time, I'm going to build that pain cave up into a nice, comfortable, uncomfortable, comfortable place to be and spend long periods of my life in. I know it sounds so stupid, and people that haven't experienced that will think it's dumb, but I don't care. I'm like, that's how I look at it, and I love that stuff. Like you said, I love
Same.
I love being deep into it, and knowing that you're deep into it and that you've already endured so much gives you the confidence to keep pushing.
Yeah, and it's rewarding too when you're spending time, like that's why I wish you and I could be closer in distance to each other, because it's so much fun when you're in it with somebody else that's in the same mentality as you. Because there's a lot of emotions with running, when you in cycling or or swimming or whatever you're doing. There's so many emotions that come throughout a run. The first mile sucks. First 5 to 6 minutes suck. And then two, like mile 2 and 3, you're like not halfway there yet. So like you're still figuring out like, all right, this still really sucks because I know I have a decent bit ahead of me. And then once you hit 5 or wherever halfway point, you're like, all right, well, I've already done half, whatever, this is gonna suck. I'm only halfway. Like this, I have to endure this for, the same amount of time, which I thought was taking forever. And then the last like fourth of it is like the easiest part because you're wrapping it up and you're feeling great, you know? So there's a lot of emotions that come with it. And if you can find someone that's in that same headspace as you, then it's really fun. Because um, one of the guys I was running with on Saturday, like we were just talking trash to like everyone that was sleeping. Like we were running in like neighborhoods kind of, and like just on roads that had tons of houses on them, and it was pitch dark, pouring rain out, and there was like we were talking about cars driving by, and we were saying that guy that just drove by probably got a belly and some boobs on him, and he's just like sitting in his car ripping a cigarette with an energy drink in his hand, probably leaving to go do something that he doesn't want to do right now, and he's probably like he's probably shitting himself right now watching us run in the rain. We're just two dudes that are like, it's pissing out right now and it's cold, and we're out running at 5 in the morning, and the dude's thinking, what am I doing right now, as he's ripping a cigarette and drinking an energy drink, or my buddy's talking about, he calls them knuckle draggers. And I didn't know what a knuckle dragger was, but I looked it up, and it's a term for a basic man that's used to simple basic ways, for lack of a better phrase. And it's just a very just beta male that doesn't really care about anything, and it just wants to be in the comfort of his his easy life, and he's used to these basic things that he does every day. And we were like, yep, all the knuckle draggers are sleeping right now, their lights are off, lights aren't going to come on for another 2.5 hours, 3 hours. And we're just the entire 15 miles talking like this. And it's just crazy because if you can tap into that space in your head where you don't even think about what you're doing, and it becomes autopilot for you, that's that's like all you need to start getting comfortable, like you said, of spending time in the pain cave. And it's fun. Like you wish you were kind of at home sleeping, but at the same time you're loving it so much that you almost wish you weren't at home sleeping. It's like one of those like weird feelings that you get. And you're right, you start to dress it up in your head, you start to put all the decorations up. You're going to be spending some time there, like 2 hours of running on Saturday morning, and you're setting up decorations all up in that place, and you're getting the fire started. You're going to sit by the fire and hang out there for a while, get nice and cozy in that discomfort. But there's so much fun that can be had there in that spot, and so I think it's all relative, because the idea of me running 15 miles right now, I'm like, no, absolutely not. But in the moment, I was loving it. And I know that, you feel that way too when you tap into a different headspace. Like you can turn on autopilot and start really crushing it. And that's why I love the pain cave, man. Like it's so much fun to talk about. And if you can find the sweet spot that we're talking about, then it gets fun. But I would caution you that that's probably about 20% of the time. Like most times, you're intentionally doing something that you just are like, all right, this is horrible. But then you have those occasional times like I did where I tapped in and I was like, let's go, you know, let's spend some time here. So it's not always sunshine and rainbows. Most of the time it's dark and raining, and it's all the things that you hate wrapped up into one. So
Yep, it certainly is. Yeah.
I went on a tangent there, but I love that stuff.
No, that's great. I mean, it's certainly true, and I feel the same way. Like we're just kind of reiterating it in different examples, but yeah, I mean, ultimately you have to get into the pain cave if you want to progress and get better. But kind of not switching gears, but just talking about what we have coming up next. I have like 6 months to prep for this half Ironman, so I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the pain cave. And I think it's important to do things that are uncomfortable because it's really humbling too. Like I've been spending a lot of time in the past year running, and that's pretty much what I've been doing, running and lifting. But now, I'm started to swim, started to bike, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, the bike, like it's a bike ride. It's a bike ride. It's not going to be that bad, And certainly, maybe it wouldn't be if you didn't like have a goal in mind of how fast you wanted to finish the race. And so I was doing some research and stuff on like some good times for like your first, or just in general for a half Ironman, but especially like a pretty honorable time for your first one. And that right around that 5 hour mark is like a pretty impressive time in general, but especially for your first time. And that puts you at like a 30 to 35 minute for the swim, which is a 1.2 mile open water swim. It puts you at like 2.5 hours for the bike. It's a 56-mile bike ride, so that puts you at like 22 to 23 miles per hour average, which is effing fast, which I've just come to realize now that I've been biking. It's fast um, to maintain that for that long. And then the half Ironman is a 7.5 to 8 minute pace. So that feels a lot more comfortable for me. Obviously, it's going to be difficult after everything else to then do that pace. Um, but if you don't set lofty goals, you're not going to put yourself in an uncomfortable position trying to get there, and you're not going to grow. And that's what the number I have in my mind. That's what I'm going to push for in all my workouts, and what I'll be thinking about as I'm doing my workup for this. Is that 5 hour mark. I'm not a competitive. I'm not competing to go to some national, Ironman or anything like that. But so if I go a little bit past 5 hours, I'm not going to be devastated, but I'm damn sure not going to just play it soft and just be like, yeah, I'm just going to do it and finish in 6.5 hours. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of that? Because you got your medal and now you can post about it and stuff. No, you know what I love the most about this is that I've been telling people that the 5 hours, that's my goal. And they're all the same exact reaction. Wow, that's going to be pretty hard. Like that's going to be
Yeah, it's
real hard
pretty
to
tough,
do.
man.
It's going to be pretty tough. And every time I bring it up and somebody says that, I'm like, yep, good. I'm like, good. That's the reaction that I want. I don't want the reaction of, oh yeah, Iron Man, you're gonna do that, no problem. I want the hesitation in the response that I get, because that's what I tap into every time that I'm training, and I want to push it to my absolute limit and try and push that 5 hour mark. And if I get somewhere close to it, then awesome. And even if I don't, and I do my absolute best, and I train my ass off this whole time, and I'm deep in the pain cave throughout my work, and I'm progressing, and my best isn't quite 5 hours, that's fine too, because I know that I pushed it to my absolute limit. I just wanted to get that
Yeah,
out there.
I think it's awesome. I'm right there with you with goal setting too. I mean, you don't want to just do it just to do it. I mean, you got to go out there, go balls to the wall. I mean, I would be doing the same thing if I were you. And a buddy of mine just finished. He did sub 5 Ironman too, and that's pretty awesome. That's awesome time. And that's funny because what Jonah is gunning for in terms of the pace for the run is what I'm trying to run. Well, I'm definitely doing sub 8, 8-minute miles for my half. I mean, I'm half marathon in February is I'm gunning for like a 7:30 pace, which I was kind of like a long shot in the beginning. Not a long shot, but like with my background only lifting, I tend to run pretty heavy. I'm about 200 pounds right now because I'm eating so much. And I'm still lifting pretty much 5 days a week, so I'm carrying some good size on me, but I'm still running pretty quick. So I think it's attainable, and I think next year when I run the 2025 Donna half or the full, I'll probably be looking at an even faster time because I'd have a lot of races under my belt. This is really my first long distance race that I've ever done. So before this, I'd never run more than like 10 miles. And I was doing that like a 9-minute pace and I was like gassed. And now I can run 10 miles after work one day at like an 8:15 pace and it's like clockwork. It's not even difficult for me anymore. So it's all relative. When I'm trying to do this half Ironman with Jonah, to be honest with you, we have a group of buddies that are all trying to do it. But Jonah, I don't know how I'm going to get my bike down there. That's the only thing, or up
Yeah,
there
the
rather. I'd have
logistics
to
would
drive.
need worked out for you on that. That would be the limiting
I mean,
factor.
I would be definitely dialed in on my running for sure. But my cycling too. I've been cycling as well, but my swimming I need to start catching up on. So Donna's in the sites though, about less than a month out. So I'm training as much as I can for that, and just trying to get that time down and watch me just blow it out of the water too. Watch me like not even struggle hitting that. I mean, if I'm feeling good, I'm gonna push it. So that's the
Yeah.
thing. I'm just gonna keep
Or
pushing
or
it
at
if I
least
can.
like negative split the first half so that if you get tired, you'll still be averaging out where you want to be
Yeah,
without like totally like wearing yourself out in the beginning.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean you made a lot of good progress for how big you are, like your size and everything since like you really started training for this. It hasn't been that long. You've been doing like a 2 or 3 month workup for this,
yeah.
and you were running a little bit before, but like you said, it wasn't a ton of volume. And you have a good plan. You have some good people giving you some good workouts and stuff, and you've been crushing them. Like you've definitely impressed me with your times and everything, and like your heart rate with those splits. So I think you're gonna kill it. It's just gonna come down to when you're like you said like halfway through and you've been running 7:35s or something like that, and then you start getting to that pain cave, just locking in and going for the ride. I think you'll be fine though. I think you got it.
I hope so. I'm
Yeah.
starting to feel more and more confident. About 2 weeks ago, I was getting nervous because I was still doing like 10-mile runs at like my heart rate was still in like the 160s, and I was like, I need to start dropping it down to the 150s. Sure enough, the past 2 weeks, I've been in the 150s steady on every single run. So
All that threshold work. Yeah.
yeah, and I honestly, my coach, he writes all my plans for me, and I'm grateful because I think we're starting to like really find a good rhythm in everything I'm doing workout wise. So I'm pleased with how it's fallen together. So, um, but yeah, we'll see, and
Yeah.
then we can hopefully train for the half Ironman. So,
Yeah.
but
But
go ahead.
I was just gonna wrap it up. You got something else to
Yeah,
say?
no, that was it. I was gonna say that's about it for the epi today. The uh, the episode, we love talking about this stuff. It's fun because it's something you can be proud of, and I think that's why we enjoy talking about it. And yeah, we love this stuff. So if if you need a little pick me up before a race or before a workout, listen to this episode and add some fuel to the fire. Know that we're in it with you, and we're trying to forcefully put ourselves in that pain cave and get all the decorations up and put them in a good old mattress in there and set the fire and the ambiance and get it going. So we're doing it right there with you.
Yeah. I don't got anything else, man. That wraps up pretty good. So we'll catch you guys in the next one. We'll be getting some guest speakers back on here. We're gonna be picking it back up. So stay on the lookout.
Yes,
Good to
sir.
go. All right.
See you on the next one, guys. Thank you.
Peace.
I got that